Welcome. Welcome to One Old Man's Opinion, episode 16. I'm the old man. Did you know we graduate kids from high school these days who can't read? Most people know it, but they don't really think about it very much. But what an awful waste. I don't know what life would be like if I couldn't read. And, well, this is about why Johnny can't read. There was a book written, I think it was in 1955, by a guy named Rudolf Flesch called Why Johnny Can't Read. And spoiler alert, it's because the schools, the education world, the system, stopped using phonics and started using a thing called Look-Say. And they've been, although there have been scandals and all kinds of uproars about it ever since, periodic flaps, the education, whatever they're called, cabal, mafia, has continued to use some variation of this Look-Say thing. They give it different names. Let's see, I got a couple here. How about picture power or balanced literacy? There's a good one. And that's all because a bunch of PhDs think they know better than hundreds of years of experience. When I was a wee lad, my kindergarten class could read. It wasn't anything special. They taught us the alphabet. And then they taught us how all the letters sounded and how some of them sounded together, like TH and CH. Then they gave us simple words to start with and bigger words, and sure enough, going into the first grade, almost all of us could read. And these days, what do they do in kindergarten? The same thing we did, except they don't learn to read. They draw pictures and paint with their fingers and fight when the teacher's not looking and that kind of stuff. But they don't learn to read. And they don't learn to read in the first grade. And they don't learn to read in the second grade. And they don't learn to read in the third grade. And you know where this is going. Some of them learn to read either outside of school or by accident, or because they're especially good have a talent for reading, and the goofy, meaningless teaching system doesn't screw them up too bad. Some people learn to read, but many do not. Well, that book that was published in 1955 is still in print. It's that good. And if you know somebody who has a child in school and knows for sure that kid not reading yet, get them a copy of that book, because there's part of the title that goes after why Johnny can't read is and what you can do about it. And what you can do about it, in his book anyway, is he has a 6-week course of home teaching. How you can teach your child to read in 6 weeks. And this works with children from the age of 6 all the way up to about 75. After that, they just browse the internet and don't care. And if you want to do more than that, you can attend a few school board meetings and find out what the school board thinks about it. If it turns out that your school district does not use phonics, and most of them don't, although there are some that do, you can lobby. And then when that doesn't work, because it usually doesn't, but you might get lucky. When that doesn't work, you can get political. You can organize. You can get a list of all the parents. You can hand out flyers. You can have meetings. And you can make darn sure that the leaders and some of the more anti-logic members of the keyboard don't get reelected. That's what you can do. It might take 2 or 3 election cycles, and by the time you get it done, your kids won't be in school anymore, but that's okay. You will have done the community a heck of a service. And in the meantime, you can teach your own kids at home how to read. And it's astounding. I saw an interview of a PhD in literary instruction or whatever it was. He was a professor of said. And he said, well, the reason we don't use phonics is because it's boring. You bore the kids to death. They'll lose their joy of reading. Well, if they can't read, they'll never have a joy of reading. That, and you got to ask yourself, what would you rather have your kid go through? 6 weeks of boring instruction, or an entire life of illiteracy? It's up to you. Or maybe you have grandkids, or maybe you have nieces and nephews. Maybe you have next door neighbors that you're real close to, and they're having problems. Bring the subject up. Find out who's being taught to read and who's not being taught to read. And then put your little finger in the mix. Make some trouble. Have some fun while you're at it. Cause these people to get it together. Well, I was looking that book up. I went to the internet and I found a list of the 500 most commonly used words in the English language. And there are multiple lists like that. I just printed out a couple pages worth of them. And it came in a spreadsheet, so you can sort the spreadsheet alphabetically, or you can sort it by the frequency of use and all that kind of stuff. And you can use these. This is a list of things to work from. What words am I going to have the kid practice with to begin with? For example, if you want them to practice the TH sound, there's they, their, them, than. See, if these were sorted in alphabetical order, all the THs would show up together. That, the. There's the most commonly used word in English. And you can add your own words to the list that are common for kids to use, like mom, dad, cat, dog, pet, friend, school, teacher, etc. Words that show up in everyday language for a kid. And you can just knock them down. Have those kids reading. You'll be giving them a gift that they just can't wear out. One of my children had a hearing issue, and which we did not know about until after she started school, and so she was having a terrible time learning to read. And when we got the hearing thing fixed, and she took off, but she was still having trouble because they weren't using phonics. Once she could hear, they weren't giving her what she needed. So I thought, well, I'll teach her. And I did. Every night for a while, we would sit down at the kitchen table and we would work on the letter sounds and work on decoding. That's the term I believe they use. Decoding words. And the hardest part of it was to unteach the guessing game, the look-say that she had been taught. She would try to recognize the word in its entirety and guess at it, which didn't work very well. So what I did for her, poor kid, I turned the work upside down. I made her read it upside down. Where then the word didn't look right, didn't look like anything she could guess at, so she would actually take it apart, letter by letter, sound out the letters, and shebang. Once I was able to break her of guessing, she could read. She can still read. Surprise, surprise. She's 25 now. She doesn't like to read. She never experienced the joy of reading, but she can read, and when she needs to read something, well, she can, and she'll be able to forever. Do that for your kids or your grandkids or your neighbor's kids or your nieces and nephews or whatever. Give them a gift that nobody can take away. That's one old man's opinion. Travel with God.